Money and manage it impacts nearly every area of our lives. This October, we are focusing on how you can become smarter with your money by challenging all North Dakota residents to take the Smart with My Money Money Personality Challenge. You can learn how your personality affects your approach to money and how you can use those characteristics to improve your financial wellness. Joining us today is Rachel Grossman with the Bank of North Dakota to share more about this. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, we appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
Yes, definitely learning a lot about these topics this month. I love it. So let's share a little bit about caregiving. So caregiving can be both rewarding and challenging, but can you walk us through some of the most common financial costs that caregivers face today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think what a lot of people don't realize is that caregivers are really taking on a lot themselves when they become a caregiver. So often that might mean taking on some of the costs that the person being cared for was previously paying for. So maybe that's rent, mortgage, having to pay for the supplies that go into being a caregiver, possibly, having to relocate to be close to that person that they're caring for. A lot of different costs involved there that people sometimes don't think about.
Definitely, yeah. So what are some unexpected ways that this shows up in their daily lives, those costs you mentioned?
Yeah, so like I said, oftentimes people will need to relocate to be closer to the person that they're caring for. It may mean that they need to cut hours back on their job or even resign, depending on how much time is needed to go into that caregiving. A lot of different areas can come up in these situations.
So you mentioned missing work or maybe even having to switch careers or resign like you mentioned. How can that impact someone financially and emotionally?
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned the emotional part. It can really sometimes make the caregiver feel like they've had, part of their life stripped away. It can cause, a financial stress, anxiety if maybe you don't have that same income stream coming in anymore. So yeah, there's a lot of feelings that can go into that for a caregiver for sure.
Definitely. So I know that long-term care insurance is mentioned as one way to potentially prepare for this. How does that work and who should seriously consider it?
Yeah, so long-term care insurance is really designed to help cover some of the costs of an individual who's needing to go into, maybe a nursing home, assisted living, adult daycare, some of those different places where there's some additional costs involved. Anyone really should be considering it. Kind of the stats say that about 70% of people who reach age 65 are probably going to need some sort of long-term care. And so being prepared for that with that insurance is really important.
Definitely, and that's something that we can be saving for ahead of time.
Absolutely.
So what practical steps can people take now to build that financial cushion?
Yeah, so a lot of people will set up a separate account to kind of start saving into for those situations, before they're even faced with maybe being in a situation like that. It really helps for just on a monthly basis, work it into their budget, set some of that aside ahead of time so that they're prepared for when those situations might arise.
Definitely. And we know that caregiving often involves open conversations about money, which can be uncomfortable for a lot of folks. How can families approach financial transparency in a respectful and productive way?
Absolutely. Really, I think just sitting down and having open lines of communication is really important. Talk about what everyone is able to bring to the table, what the caregiver is bringing, maybe what the person being cared for may still be able to bring, and really just kind of setting out those expectations ahead of time is really important.
Okay, I love that. So what's your biggest piece of advice for someone who's just beginning their caregiving journey and they're maybe feeling a little bit overwhelmed?
Yeah, for sure. So I understand it can definitely maybe feel overwhelming, maybe a little scary even. I think the biggest part is just, staying calm, understanding that it's okay to feel overwhelmed, and then really just kind of figuring out, what your options are. Educating yourself, not being afraid to turn to financial professionals for help if you need it. The Smart With My Money website is a great place to kind of start with some of that education and just kind of see what options are out there for them.
I love it. So where can we go for more information?
Yeah, so I mentioned that Smart With My Money website. That's just smartwithmymoney.nd.gov. a great place to take courses, watch videos, read articles, whatever your learning style is, and really get that education started.
I love that. Yeah, we just had one topic today, but there's a whole range on the website, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, lots out there for people to learn about.
I love it. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Of course. Thank you.
Yes, we appreciate it. See you next time. Well, everyone at home, stick around. More North Dakota Today coming up for you after this short break.